Hello, my name is Greg Luttrell. This demonstration is for Level 1 Combat Hapkido Tactical Pressure Points Apprentice Instructor Examination. I look forward to hearing back from you with any comments you may have about this video. Next, we're going to be talking about some safety guidelines before we proceed. Neither of my training partners have any injuries or health conditions. I'll be training with two different training partners during these training sessions. One is less than 40 but older than 16, and the other is over 40 years old. And he's well aware that since he's over 40, that he be extra aware that after this training session that he be aware that he may have some undesirable health issues, that it's a possibility. Neither of my training partners have trained in pressure points. It's been over 72 hours since they've trained in pressure points. And another thing to remember is on the subject of safety, each pressure point, it's identified by a name and a number. And just as an example, the lung 8 meridian, the lung 8 pressure point on the lung meridian, while we train on that meridian, we need to let our training partners know that, again, just because we're training on that lung meridian, if they have any respiratory issues, breathing issues, or even a simple cold, training pressure points on that particular meridian can make that a little bit worse. They just need to be aware of that. After this training session, on all the pressure points, I'll be applying revival techniques to the different pressure point areas to restore the energy flow and take care of that. Next, we're going to talk about 3 defining rules. As a pressure point instructor, we need to understand and also make sure that our students understand these 3 defining rules. Number 1 is redundancy. We never need to rely 100% on pressure points due to the fact that some people may respond to them better than others. We only need to use pressure points to enhance our combat Hapkido techniques. And to get that response, shoulder dropping, so we can go into a wrist lock or something along those lines. We must also practice and learn to properly apply the pressure points in order to get them to work. And just like our Hapkido techniques, we need to practice them and practice on both sides, so it becomes second nature to us. And also be ready to apply multiple pressure points. In case one does not work. That's the redundancy part of the 3 defining rules. Number 2 is economy of movement. Fights are won and lost within fractions of a second, and we don't need to be passing up a target to get to a target. In other words, that just wastes time. And like I said, fights are won and lost within those seconds. So if we can, do a distraction technique, and boom, right there is a pressure point. We need to be ready and trained to use that pressure point as opposed to going to another part of the body to use it. We don't ever need to pass it up. So that's economy of movement. Third and lastly is responsibility. Nowadays in time there's cameras everywhere. Everybody has a cell phone to take pictures, and we need to understand that we will be held accountable for our actions, and I only need to use the force necessary to take control of the situation. In a self-defense situation, if you get attacked, walking to your car in a parking lot, and you get taken to the ground, and you're the person getting attacked, that's somebody that comes out 10 seconds later may think you're the attacker and may come to help the person attacking you and start kicking you in the head and that kind of stuff. But we need to be responsible with our actions, and make sure, like I said earlier, make sure we only use the force necessary to take control of the situation. Because once the attacker stops attacking and stops harming you and turns and walking away, you either need to leave, escape, let them leave, because the second you chase that person and continue the situation, the tables turn and you turn into the aggressor at that point. So that's the responsibility part of the 3 defining rules. Basic air control is the key to entering into any pressure point manipulation, and also the most important learning objective for students entering into any pressure point curriculum. This is creating pain and getting a response, getting an involuntary response within the body. When attacking a pressure point, we'll get a reaction due to the pain that we've created on that particular nerve on the pressure point. When pain is generated, the body naturally wants to go away from the pain, which helps the student go into various techniques in order to get control of the attacker with an escort technique, or to or if they have to finish them with takedown. But again, that's basic area control, and all this is done while maintaining that basic area control on the attacker's body. Next, we're going to talk about locating targets. When someone's undergoing, as an example, when someone's going through an acupuncture session, the therapist, they have to be kind of precise in where they put the needle in the body, because they have to be within an area the size of a ballpoint pen when they locate the various pressure points in order for it to help their patient. When we, as martial artists, activate a pressure point in a self-defense situation, lucky for us, it can be activated within a little bit larger size, the size of a small coin. Helps us, it's easier for us to find that point, press down on the nerve on that pressure point area. And just like anything else in life, practice makes perfect, and when we're practice activating pressure points, it helps tremendously if we can get training partners that's different shape, different sizes, different types of bodies, different ages, and all that, in order to help us learn the locations of these pressure points. And a little bit later, you'll see in my videos where I'm demonstrating these techniques, you'll see I've got two different training partners, and their body types are different, in order for me to show the difference in the different locations as far as the anatomical units and that type of stuff that for locating the points. Next, we're going to talk about non-responders. This is probably one of the things that I hear, and I'm sure you do too, most often. People say they don't work, or they don't believe in them, or that kind of stuff. But there's a small group of the population that are less likely to respond to the activation of pressure points, and most of the time, when somebody don't respond to a pressure point technique, it's due to that technique not being applied correctly. One reason someone may not respond to a pressure point is that person may be intoxicated with drugs or alcohol, and sometimes that can alter their reaction to pain. Or another reason they may not respond, it could be nerve issues from past surgeries, or medical issues, or even it may be hereditary. Again, everybody's different. On a special note, something that I've personally experienced in class, and one that I find really interesting, is I've trained with a training partner in the past that there's a pressure point back in this area right here that you can rub on it, and that's one of the pressure points that I go to and show people, usually because that it just hurts, and 9 out of 10 people they get a reaction out of it, or I get a reaction out of it. But there's one particular gentleman that I've trained with, it doesn't even bother him. He feels it, but it don't bother him. And I am applying it correctly. But again, one of the things that I find interesting is that in the text that it states that if a person doesn't have a reaction to a pressure point, say on the upper part of the body, they're usually more reactive to ones on the lower part of the body, or on the opposite side of the body. And as another example, this particular gentleman, any of the pressure points on the leg, of course, is on the lower part of the body. This way up, he's not really responsive, but from here down, he's 10 times more responsive to pressure points than anybody else. And that was just, I come across that accidentally before I even started reading the text that you had. So I thought that was, I've experienced that myself, and that was kind of interesting. But as I mentioned earlier, that's a perfect example of why we need to practice and execute redundancy, or the use of multiple pressure points. Alright, next I'm going to talk about anatomical units, the yin and yang polarities, and target activation. An anatomical unit, or AU, is it's a unit of measurement. This measurement, it can vary from person to person, but it's actually the width across the knuckle part of the thumb of your attacker. So if I was going to be attacked by a small female, I wouldn't think, or I wouldn't use the AU for my knuckle. I would use it the width, use the measurement for what her knuckle should be. So that's an anatomical unit. Next, the yin and yang polarities. Each meridian is either yin or yang in polarity, and it's all depending upon the energy flow, the direction of it. Knowing the energy flow is a must when attacking a pressure point. It tells you whether to press in and away, or in and toward the body, or striking in toward the body, or vice versa. But yin means energy that flows away from the body. Yang is energy that flows towards the body. Lastly, target activation. Before we begin these demonstrations, you'll be hearing me referring to several ways to activate a pressure point. And in the following video segments, you'll hear me refer to these methods of activation prior to applying the technique, which is striking, pressing, or rubbing. Alright, the first part of this video test is I'm going to talk about the lung meridian. There's a total of 12 meridians that run throughout the human body. A meridian is a transport system, or sort of like an invisible channel that runs through the body. It's energy that runs through the body, energy flow. And by interrupting that energy flow, that's where you get the reaction from the attacker, or from your training partners that we're looking for. And in this test, the way I've got these videos structured is talk about the lung meridian. There's 3 lung meridian points that we're going to talk about. I'm going to do all 3 lung points at this time. But the lung meridian, it's yin in polarity. It's associated with the element of metal. There's a total of 11 points, pressure points, on the lung meridian. And it begins at the upper corner of the chest and flows through the inner part of the arm on the thumb side, and it ends at the tip of the thumb. When you practice finding pressure points, and this goes for all the pressure points we're going to go over, your training partner, it's easier for you to see their bodily reaction if they tense up their body to tense it up where the nerves have more hard areas to press against to get that interruption of energy flow. But the first one we're going to go over, it's called lung 8. It's actually located on the hand. Lung 8 is in this little area. I think it's like a 25 millimeter area, the size of a small coin. It's actually, if you look at I talked about this earlier, but the AUs, or anatomical units, mine and his thumb knuckle is very similar in size, so I could use my thumb knuckle to place below the crease of the wrist. So that lung 8 pressure point should be located right there. So if you tense up a little bit and I pull in, did you feel that?
Yes.
Okay. What you want to do is to interrupt the energy flow. I'm going to press in and toward the hand, toward the flow of the energy. So this pressure point's actually good if the attacker grabs you by the lapel. I could grab this and pull in and see the way his body reacts as it goes down, as his shoulder drops. If he still has control, or he still has a hold of your body, in this situation I could apply a substernal notch and go straight down, or if he released it, I could go to a wrist lock. This is the basic area of control I talked about earlier. I would do either one of those takedowns, all while controlling this area of the wrist. But again, lung 8, located 1 AU from the crease of the wrist. I'm going to press in and toward the wrist to weaken the hand. Alright, the next pressure point we're going to go over is lung 6. Unlike the previous pressure point, which was a press pressure point, Lung 6 is a strike pressure point. You want to strike it to the bone and toward the wrist to weaken the fist or weaken the grip. Lung 6 is actually where the big muscle comes down this way and it kind of gets smaller. There's a little indentation right in here on the thumb side, on top of the forearm. Right in here is where that pressure point is. And again, when you want to strike it, I want to strike it with sort of a scoop. So you don't want to go straight down. I want to scoop it and come back toward, going with that energy flow. So if he does a throat grab, for instance, I'm going to step back, hit that pressure point, and as I hit that pressure point, I could follow up with a tracheal, step behind tracheal choke, or all while keeping the basic area control here. If he gets out of that, speaking of redundancy, I could go into an arm bar with one of the triple warmer pressure points that I'll go over a little bit later. But again, this is lung 6. It's located in the middle of the radial bone. When you hit that striking action down and toward the fingertips, you get a whole body reaction, which will allow you to go into various different takedown techniques. The next pressure point along the lung meridian we're going to go over is lung 5. Lung 5 can be used as a strike or a press pressure point, depending on the situation. If it's a low, I'm going to call it a low intense situation, you might want to use it as a press, where you press in and toward the hand. But if it's something where you'd want to go into a more controlling type situation with an escort type technique, which is what I'm going to use here, you would want to use a strike. Lung 5 is actually located around the wrist or the elbow joint. And any of the pressure points that's around a joint, one of the easy ways to find it is you can actually draw an X from one side to the other, and where the X meets in the middle for the lung 5 pressure point, it's located right here in this area. It's on the thumb side of the arm, and again, you want to press or hit down and toward the energy flow toward the hands, toward the wrist. So if he does a shirt grab on me, I'm going to control the hand, do a strike with an arc, and at this point, notice the body, how it reacted. It sort of went down, shoulders dropped, and from this point, I could go into a hammer lock, and at this point, I could either escort him out, or if he wants to be more combative, I could go a little bit harder on this hammer lock, knee to the head or whatever. But main objective for lung 5 is that it's located here in this area on the thumb side of the arm, and it's pressed in and toward the fingertips, whether it's a strike and out, or if I want to grab it with my thumb, press in and this way, and it bends the elbow. It actually comes towards me, and I can control him better to go into a different types of techniques. The next meridian and pressure points we're going to talk about is on the pericardium meridian. It's yin in polarity. It's associated with the element of fire. There's 9 points along this meridian, and it actually begins at the chest area, flowing down the inside of the arm, up over the shoulder, down the inside of the arm, and ends at the tip of the middle finger. And the location for this meridian, the first pressure point, pericardium 6, it's located 2 anatomical units from the crease of the attacker's wrist. So 1, 2. It's going to be right in this little general area right here. So if I was going to grab this, I would come right here. If you make a fist, press in and toward his wrist. And he did this. The reason for this, the reaction I should be expecting is the wrist and hand is supposed to get weaker. So if the the attacker grabs my wrist and is pulling, I could come in, grab that point, go into a breakaway, and I could escape, or I could go into a wrist lock takedown, then follow up according depending on the type of situation that's going on. Pericardium 6. The next pressure point we're going to go over is called pericardium 2. It's actually located 2 anatomical units below the crease of the armpit, and one way to find this, the crease of the armpit's right in here. You come down 2 anatomical units down from that crease. You're going to see where the muscle or the bicep curves back into the body. It's going to be there in that area. And when I strike, this is a strike pressure point. Pericardium 6, the previous pressure point, was a press pressure point, and this is pericardium 2. It's actually a strike pressure point. I'm going to strike directly into the bone, to the humerus bone, so to pin that nerve to give the reaction. It numbs the arm, it numbs the bicep, it causes pain, plus its immediate reaction, him letting go whatever he's got a hold of. It's a really good pressure point to facilitate a breakaway. It's an easy target. Like I said, it's a quick release. You can be used for throat grab. One thing to note on this, when you hit the pressure point or the target area, you want to make sure you hit in a pretty precise location, because if you miss and hit the bicep, it can act as a cushion and absorb that point, and you won't be able to pin the nerve against the bone like you need to. So if you grab me by the shirt, it's a threatening situation, I could come down, hit the area. You notice his body, how it reacts. He lets go. I could again, I could escape, or I could go into another wrist lock. As you can tell, I like wrist locks. I could go into a wrist lock takedown. But again, pericardium 2, and as far as the revival techniques, you want to slap about half as hard as you hit it a couple times and rub it in the direction of the energy flow. And if you're not sure of the energy flow, you can rub in a circular motion, but we know this is yin and it's flowing away from the body, so I rub away from the body. Next, we're going to be talking about the heart meridian. The heart meridian is yin in polarity on the inside of the body. It's associated with the element of fire. There's actually 9 points on this meridian. And it begins at the armpit and flows down the inside of the arm on the little finger side of the arm side of the body, and ending at the tip of the little finger. The first one we're going to go over is heart 6, and as a demonstration here, it's a half of an AU from the crease of the wrist on the bottom side of on the pinky side. Should be located in this area right here, and it's an excellent pressure point to release again, to get rid of, or to get them to release your shirt, any type of wrist grab, anything like that. And you want to press in and toward the energy flow, towards your body, toward their fingertips, to get the hand to weaken, get the wrist to weaken, and let them make them release whatever they got a hold of. And to demonstrate this one, again, I could come up here and do it with this hand. Some people use the knuckle rub to press in and let go. I don't know, this must be the way my wrist is made, but I actually have a hard time getting that. And I've noticed if I take my fingers and press in, sort of pressing in this way, and I can usually get it pretty easy that way. You notice again the bodily reaction, and I'm actually pinning the wrist to my body if I do it like that. But again, this is heart 6, and along the heart meridian. The next pressure point we're going to talk about is heart 2. It's actually located 3 anatomical units to the inside end of the crease of the elbow in the space between the bicep and triceps on the inside part of the arm. It's actually located right here in this area where the bicep and the tricep meet on the inside of the arm. One easy way to find this is to place the palm of my hand on the point of his elbow, and if I start to squeeze, it's going to be right there near my middle finger. Or since it's near a joint, I could draw an imaginary X, and it's going to, if it meets in the middle right here, go over, and it's going to be here, right here in this area. Unlike the previous pressure point, which was a press pressure point, this one can be used as a press or a strike when you need to activate it. And you want to press down and towards the end of his hand, or strike in and towards the end of his hand. And one way to apply this pressure point is like for the strike part, I could reach up and strike in and out toward his hand. And I'll go ahead and do a demonstration of that right now. But if he grabs me and I'm trying to get away and I can't, I can trap his wrist or pinch his wrist, come in, strike, and go into a top arm lock and take down. Or if another way, one of my favorites is to come in, place the palm of my hand on his armpit, squeeze in with my thumb, bring him close to me, and I could go in for a head strike takedown and then just escape the situation. This technique, or this pressure point, is also good for grappling and ground fighting. Again, that's heart 2 and along the heart meridian. Next we're going to be talking about the large intestine meridian. This is our first yang meridian, yang and polarity that we're going to talk about, as it's different in the way the energy flows. The energy actually flows towards the body with this meridian. There's 20 points along this meridian, but we're going to be going over number 10. The large intestine meridian. It's associated with the element of metal, and it begins at the tip of the index finger and flows through the outer part of the arm, across the shoulder, up the neck, and ends at the corner of the nose. And again, it's large intestine 10. And one way you can identify this point is you can draw an X on the outside of the elbow joint, and as we come across, it should be located right in this area right here. And this is a press or strike pressure point. It can be activated either way. For low-level instances, you could use a pressure point. If somebody's grabbing you and trying to pull you somewhere, you could simply locate the point and press in and toward the body, toward the intestine. And as I do that, he's going to release the hand, and I can just break away and escape the situation. Or if it is a more intense type situation, you can grab my collar. I could bring this up to protect against that hand, and I could simply reach up, grab that point, press in and again toward the body, and as he does, it puts, talking about economy of movement in earlier slides, it's a perfect opportunity to go into substernal notch takedown at this point. And again, that's large intestine 10, and for this revival technique, since it's, again, the energy flow is different, you could either rub in circular motion if you're unsure of the energy flow, but we know which way this is going. We're going to flow back toward the body. Again, that's large intestine 10. Alright, next we're going to be talking about the triple warmer meridian. It's yang in polarity. It's associated with the element of fire. There's 23 points along this meridian, and it begins at the tip of the fourth finger and flows up the back part of the arm, across the shoulder, onto the head, around the ear, and ends of the temple or temple area. The triple warmer meridian, if it's not associated with any organ in the body, it's associated with the regulation of body temperature and metabolism. Like I said, there's 23 points along this meridian. The first one we're going to go over is triple warmer 11. It's actually located 2 AUs above the point of the elbow, and actually there's a little indentation pocket right there you can feel to make sure you're in the right general area. And this is kind of a different pressure point as well, because it's not a strike or a press pressure point. You can rub it from side to side, and it may be irritating to the person, but you won't get really a reaction unless you rub it up and down. And I didn't do that hard at all, but you got a reaction out of it, right? Mm-hmm. You can actually press in and rub up and down on this pressure point, and like I said, get a reaction. And it's due to the part. It's due to that reason, because of the part of the nerve that you're attacking. Like I said, if you rub from side to side, you're compressing the nerves compressing them in a different way, as if you were rubbing it up and down. You get a lot better response. And also because the meridian flow, it don't go side to side. It goes, back toward the body, but it's going up and down. So you're interrupting that full meridian flow if you rub it up and down as opposed to side. One of the things I like to use this pressure point with is an arm bar. Sometimes, if somebody grabs you and you go into an arm bar, and the person may do this and lock their elbow, my goal is to be right here when I do an arm bar, and to come in and complete the arm bar. But if the person accidentally, like he did, got into this by locking his elbow, I've still got the area of control here. But in order for me to complete the technique, I need to get this arm straight. So I'm not really going to try to overpower him right here. I can simply come up to that pressure point and rub up and down a little bit, and he's going to, again, go away from the pain, and I can complete my technique. Again, that's triple warmer 11, and again, I'm going to hit it, restore some energy to that area. Triple warmer 11. The next pressure point we're going to go over is called triple warmer 12. It's located near the middle or the pocket side of the tricep, and located right in this area right here where the tricep comes down and meets or ends, and there's a little pocket area between the muscles. This is a striking pressure point, and what you want to do, you want to strike down into the bone towards the body. What this does, it releases the shoulder in order to protect it, and it locks the elbow, and also sends a signal to the brain, as if in your brain thinks that the bone is breaking if you strike the nerve against the bone correctly. When in reality it's not breaking the bone, but your body thinks it is. As a note on safety, anytime you're working with joints, the elbow or the shoulder, you never want to, like if he's been down just a little bit, I never want to raise his arm above the shoulder and strike this. In real life, real situation, it don't matter, but with your training partner, you don't want to do that, because it just makes it easier for you to knock the joint out of place, and you don't want to do that. You could dislocate it very easily. But for me, this pressure point, I envision this as if somebody grabs me and they're pulling, and I go into an arm bar, or I start to go into an arm bar, and instead of going into the arm bar and stepping through and completing the arm bar or hitting the other pressure point, I may see somebody else, I may think the scene's unsafe, I may want to just push him out of the way and get out. But in this type of situation, this is a good example to use this pressure point, in my opinion. I've got area control right here, and I want to strike in and toward the body to get him to release and he's going to follow that energy flow away from me, putting just a little bit more distance between me and the attacker. And again, as an example, going to the arm bar, hit that, and get away, I would escape. Again, as a revival technique, energy flows toward the body, and again, that's triple warmer 12, striking in and towards the body. Now, the next meridian we're going to be going over is the spleen meridian. It is yin and polarity. It's associated with the element of earth. There's 21 points along this meridian, and it begins at the tip of the big toe, flows up along the inside of the leg, up the torso, and ends at the side of the body. The first point we're going to be going over right now is spleen 11. It's actually located on the inside part of the leg, between the knee and the hip, and it's like right here's that if you come halfway from the distance between the knee and the hip and come over where the quadricep folds over, that's where that point is. And a good application for using this pressure point, you can use it in a headlock, a clinch, or you can strike from the ground. One thing to remember is if you're in a headlock and you use this particular technique, if you're dealing with a much larger opponent, one of the most devastating things you can do is to take your opponent to the ground. Devastating for them. It's good for you, but when you take somebody to the ground, that's, like I said, devastating for them. But if you're in a headlock and you use this and they go to the ground, which is really what this pressure point can do, their weight can drop down on you, so you need to be mindful of that and be ready for that. And situation, well, I'll do an example. For a headlock, if you step this leg forward so they can see, talk about area of control. I could control the wrist, and I need to strike in and up towards the body. And if I can do that with the palm of my hand, with the palm strike. If I go in and up, he releases. I've got this area control. I could go into hammerlock or behind the back wrist compression. Another way you can train with these pressure points is if I can kneel down and to locate the pressure point. Again, this is a training. Or if you're attacked and you're on the ground, you can come up and use the same application to hit the pressure point. But you can have your opponent, your training partner, use your shoulder as a stool, I guess, to place their weight on. For when you do press in and up, it's safer for them when you're training and trying to locate these type of pressure points. And again, this is spleen 11. The next pressure point we're going to go over is spleen 10. It's located on the inner part of the leg, about 3 AUs above the knee cap, just slightly on the inner part of the leg. And again, just sort of like the elbow, if we want to, we could draw an imaginary X on this joint to find that pressure point. Or we could come, 3 AUs up above the kneecap, then slightly on the inside part of the leg. And this is a strike pressure point, and you can use this pressure point. I would use it for an escape, me personally. But you can also, like if you're in a clinch and somebody, they've got a hold of you and they're not letting go. You could do a scoop kick to that pressure point to throw them off balance, to buckle their knee, and once they get off balance, you could go into a technique. Or if they've got you like this and you're in close and you can't get away, just do a simple my knee to that pressure point and then break away and escape. Again, that is spleen 10. The next one we're going to be going over is called spleen 9. It's located about 2 AUs below the knee, on the inner part of the leg below the knee. And what you want to do with this pressure point, actually it's going to be located, if you want to draw the imaginary X, you can begin, because this is on a joint. But again, 2 AUs below the knee on the inner part of the leg. And go ahead and put your hand on my shoulder. When you're training and locating these pressure points, one way to do this is have your training partner stand up, and I can hit the pressure point with my hand, or they can sit down. Actually safer for them to sit down and do the same thing, and you get a better reaction by, you can actually see the reaction of the body going away from the pain. See his body and hips moving away from where I'm hitting. It's a good indicator that you're getting near that point. One good reason to have your partner sit down during this is if they stand up, sometimes they'll accidentally lock their knee, and you can actually do some damage by doing that. But again, this pressure point, spleen 9, is 2 AUs below the knee on the inner, just on the inner part of the leg, and you want to strike with a scooping kick or strike through the imaginary X on the knee into toward the body. Next, we're going to go over the bladder 55. It's along the bladder meridian, which is yang of polarity. It's associated with water, and there's 67 points along the bladder meridian. It begins at the corner of the eye and flows over the head, down the back, and in 2 parallel lines with the spine. And then it flows down the back of the leg and ends at the little toe, or down into the ground. Again, bladder 55, it's a strike or press point. It's actually located at the top part of the calf muscle, just below the crease of the knee, and where the muscle curve, the calf muscle curves right here. And when you press or strike this point, you want to press or strike down with the energy flow, because the energy is flowing down. And again, strike or press down toward the earth. And there's a couple ways to apply this. If my opponent has me in a headlock, and if I'm down on one knee, or if I'm up, I could take my thumb, press down, and get a body reaction. At the same time, maintaining this hand. And at this point, I could come up into a center lock behind the back wrist compression, or any other type of escort technique. But when you're in all of the leg, the lower body pressure point techniques, we need to be mindful and remind the students that, just like in that situation, in a self-defense situation, that if you're like in a headlock, their body weight can come down on you, so you need to be mindful of that, especially if you're going up against a much larger opponent. But in the Combat Hapkido second Dan curriculum, there's a technique, a kick. It's savate or savat kick. I'm not sure if that's pronounced right, but it's actually where you come behind and you kick down on that point, or there in that area. And again, this is bladder 55, and one of the good neat things about this area right here, we're working with bladder 55, but there's several other pressure points right there in that general vicinity. So if you miss one, there's a good chance you'll hit another. So it's a really good leg pressure point to know. And again, as far as revival techniques, you're going to slap it about half as hard, then go down, or go with the flow of the energy flow to help restore energy to that area. This next one we're going to go over is called new lower extremity. This point is named the way that it is because it was discovered after the meridian system was actually mapped out. the point, again, it's new lower extremity 7, and it's below the knee at the knee joint. And if you, again, near the joint, draw an imaginary X, if you come about 3 AUs below the knee on the outside part of the leg, right here in this little area right here, about the size of a coin, 25mm coin, right here, you want to strike this point in and up toward the hip when you hit it. It's a good point to throw your attacker off balance so you can escape. You could use it if you're on the ground. If you can get the right angle, you may have to use this leg to kick. But the way I envision it, if you're in a clinch or something, you can kick it with a scoop kick. But again, this brings up a good point with when you're training in this situation. You may want to hold on to your partner as you kick them and sort of help break their fall as they come down. Again, that's just in a training situation. But again, it's new lower extremity 7. It's strike up towards the hip with a kick or scoop kick, located about 3 AUs below the knee on the outside part of the leg. Next, we're going to be going over the stomach meridian. It's yang in polarity, meaning flowing from the head into the earth toward the feet. It's associated with the element of earth. There's 45 points along this meridian, and it begins directly under the eye, flows down the neck, across the torso, then down the outside of the leg, ending at the tip of the second toe. We're going to be practicing with stomach 34. This particular pressure point, it's located about 3 AUs above the kneecap on the outside of the thigh. And again, it's near a joint, so you could draw an imaginary X on each side, and this is going to be located around this area right here. And when we strike this point, we want to strike diagonally down. We want to strike through the knee. And it's a good pressure point to knock your opponent to the ground. And I envision using this pressure point if you're in maybe a headlock. You could come down with your elbow, control the arm, get loose, and as you're getting loose here, come down with your body weight into that pressure point. Or if you're down on your knees, you could come down with a knife hand or fist to that area, to the knee. And again, it's made, or it's designed to go. You're supposed to strike downward through the knee, through the center of the knee, and it loosens the knee. And at that point, the attacker or your training partner will lose, knocking them off balance, and they'll be a lot easier to go to the ground. If that don't make them go to the ground itself, that's going to knock them off balance, and you'll be able to take them to the ground. And again, when you're dealing with, when you're training, have your partner put some of the weight on the knee, and this point's going to be right here. And if I strike, notice the full body reaction again on these pressure points, down and through. And again, when working with the legs, you want to hit the leg and restore the energy flow after working with these pressure points. Next, the meridian we're going to go over is the gallbladder meridian. It's a yang in polarity. It's associated with the element of wood. There's 44 points along this meridian, and we're going to be going over gallbladder 31. This meridian, it begins at the outer corner of the eye. It flows to the ear, then back to the forehead, across the top of the head, then back down the rear of the neck along the side of the body, and ends at the tip of the fourth toe. Again, this is gallbladder 31, and it's located, it's actually located 7 AUs above the knee, but a pretty good indicator if you have your training partner to stand like this, at the right below the tip of the middle finger is going to be the gallbladder 31, and it's actually between the knee and the hip in the center of the thigh on the outside of the leg. And when you strike this pressure point, You can strike it or you can knee it with your knee if you're in a clinch or something. Either way you want to strike it, it can numb the leg, or if you use the knee, you want to go up and in to get a more energetic response. And again, for not redundancy, but for the legal actions, you're responsible for your actions. I only need to use the force necessary to take control of the situation. This target's very useful for law enforcement under any low-level situation that you might encounter, because when you actually hit it, it takes away the mobility, and again, it numbs the leg, and you may be able to take control of the situation at that point instead of using more force. A good indicator of this too, as mentioned in the video, is if somebody has cargo pants that's got pockets on the side, this pressure point is going to be near the flap of the pants where it goes in. But as an example, if you put your hand down by your side, it's going to be right in here on him. And if you watch the reaction from his body, you're going to put your hand right there. If I hit him, I'm going to go up and in. From here, I'm going to go straight through to the bone. Notice the total full body response that I got from that, and it should have numbed the leg a little bit if I hit it correctly. And but again, if you're in a clinch or something, and you get the opportunity to step to the outside and go up and in to get a bit more energetic response, then he would post away from you. Again, that's gallbladder 31, and on this particular meridian, as far as the revival techniques, again with the leg or any of the meridians, you want to hit about half as hard as you hit it when you're training. Hit it 3 times. And if you're unsure, you can rub it in a circular motion to help the energy flow come back. To conclude this video examination, we're going to do a static grab drill, eyes closed drill. It's a skill to help the students learn to operate and find targets under a little bit of stress. And the way we're going to work it is I'm going to stand here. I'm going to close my eyes and drop my head. My training partner is going to walk toward me, and right before he grabs me, he's going to say open, and I'm going to open my eyes, and whichever targets he grabs, I'm going to react on. And probably going to do more sort of like I did throughout the whole test, do some escapes as opposed to some hard takedowns, because as you can tell, we don't have mats here at my home. Concrete floor with a little bit of carpet down, so we're going to go about 50%. There it is, just enough to get the point across that how to do this drill, and then we know where the pressure points are. But you want to do this drill for a minute, and I'm going to start my timer, and we're going to do it. Open. 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 Okay, we're right at a minute. So again, we did that for a minute. As you can tell, I did the drill or the pressure point on the back of the arm, the triple warmer where you rub up and down. For the arm bar, I did a couple of outside of the leg pressure points from a clinch, throat grabs, some of the heart and lung pressure points on the arm. Look forward to your comments, and look forward to hearing from you on the results.